Awesome. It's 9:02 our time, so I think let's kick off and then everyone else can, I think there'll be people joining as we go, but let's not hold everybody else up and let's get going. Alrighty. Good morning and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another MyHR webinar, this time brought to you in partnership with Recruit Shop. My name is Nicole. Sam is joining me on the webinar today, and I'm about to introduce us and take you through what we're covering today as well. Fantastic. Thank you. Just a reminder, everybody, we have the chat disabled, the chat box, but the Q&A box is open. So if you need to share anything with us in that, please go ahead and we will monitor that. And of course, I'll answer some questions later in the session. Awesome. So just a quick bit of agenda for you to know what you're expecting this morning. We'll go through some introductions shortly. Then we want to talk about signs you need extra support with your recruitment needs, when to engage a recruitment partner, how to assess and select a recruitment partner, how to be a great partner yourself. And we have a bonus surprise slide that it's about a topic that everybody's talking about. Hopefully I haven't given that away. Then we'll do some Q&A and then wrap up. So we should take just about an hour or a little bit less. Hopefully you enjoy. So welcome to Navigating Tough Hiring Markets, when and why to bring in a recruitment agency. As I mentioned, this webinar is brought to you in partnership with our new partners, Recruit Shop, Sam being our general manager at Recruit Shop and myself as MyHR's new country manager. For those of you who haven't yet met me or haven't spoken to you yet, hello, my name is Nicole Karagiannis. I am MyHR Australia's country manager. That's a mouthful. I don't manage Australia as a country. I leave that for the politicians, but I do manage MyHR in Australia. And it's a wonderful privilege and an honour to be here working with an awesome team, both in New Zealand, Australia and Canada. You may have previously joined webinars that have been led by either Sylvie, our Chief Evangelist in New Zealand, or Julie, our Country Manager in Canada. And you'll be seeing more from me in coming webinars. And I think we'll try and bring more of our colleagues onto webinars like this. They're simply amazing people. A little bit about me. I have worked in different sectors and industries, from banking and finance to healthcare, hospitals, aged care, disability sector, both in not-for-profit and profit spaces. I've worked in technology companies, in AI companies, and the list goes on. I've worked in transport as well. I've led multiple internal HR teams and now have the privilege of working as a country manager. That's both balancing a HR advisory hat, a marketing, sales and everything to do with leading Australia hat as well. So it's a wonderful, diverse role and having a great time. So thank you for having me. I have experience working with executive teams and HR teams and key stakeholders across the business to really build and coach high-performing teams and make a difference in company culture that then leads to great business results, of course. So that's a little bit about me. I'm sure you'll hear more about me in coming weeks and months and years as we work closely together. If you don't know who MyHR are, I thought I'd just quickly put in a little bit of an introduction. I always say that MyHR as a platform offers two sides to the coin, one being our SaaS or our software and platform, from a system point of view, and that's your core HR system that includes an onboarding module, a performance review module, and has a few things, great features like being able to put in a job description, request interview questions, and so on. So it's through that platform that you also can request support from our expert advisory team. So we have on-call HR experts. We help with reviewing policies, drafting them, reviewing employment contracts, various types of employee letters. We guide you on best practices, and we help with what I call employee relations, or what we call the sticky end of HR, which is all things to do with restructures, redundancies, dealing with difficult situations, for example, disciplinary underperformance and so on. And we help coach our managers and guide you along the way as well. So it's a great partnership. And it's absolutely amazing so far to have been getting to know our customers and understanding their needs better as well. I thought I'd just share, this is a screenshot that you can actually see on our website. Gives you a nice overview of what our system or platform looks like. You'll see on the left-hand side, we have a navigation bar that takes you from home to HR services, where you can chat to us and to the team, to reminders. Then it shows you your people. There's different onboarding, there's different modules, as I said, like onboarding, jobs and performance. And of course, you can access documents and reports. So just a quick overview about what we do. Happy to do a much deeper conversation if you want to in the future as well, if this is the first time you're hearing about us. I'd love to now introduce Samantha. I'll be referring to her as Sam this webinar. And Sam's an executive leader with a proven track record in the recruitment industry. Sam, you've led multiple, you've led multiple companies during growth, managing recruitment services and helping businesses achieve their hiring goals. I love that you were recognised as Business Person of the Year at your local business awards last year in 24. And I know that you have a big passion. That's where you and I have enjoyed working together so far and getting to know each other. Which is through your passion for supporting small businesses and streamlining processes, delivering results that have really made you a trusted partner. And it's been great partnering with you so far. So thank you so much, Sam. I'm really excited for future collaborations and webinars to come. I'm going to ask you to introduce Recruit Shop, and then I'll take us through to the rest of the webinar.
Perfect. Thanks, Nicole. And yeah, great to hear a bit more about MyHR. I know a lot of our clients could really use some of that support. Being small business owners, I think everyone can use that extra support in many areas of their roles. So yeah, lovely to meet everyone. As Nicole mentioned, I'm the general manager here at Recruit Shop. Just to give a high level overview, we're a low cost recruitment service focused really working on small businesses. So it's a quick, easy and affordable option. You can see we work on a flat fee model. It's $2,995, and we have no hidden fees and no percentage of salary. So very different to what you might think of as a traditional agency. We have a money back promise. We have a quick time to hire, and we work across all roles and industries and really tailor our campaigns for each individual client's needs. And as I mentioned, being a small business owner, people who don't have much time on their hands or people who don't have a HR manager in place really need that support. And we do have some additional services as well that can really support you through the hiring process. So things like headhunting or police and reference checks and phone screening are all things that we can do to help support our clients. But yeah, great to just give you a brief overview of how we work as we move through the slides. We'll be talking generally about the recruitment industry and also how we can support any clients that might need that additional support in the tricky world of recruitment.
Awesome. Thank you. And I think before we go ahead, it's really important to call out that one of the things I love doing is demystifying different parts of HR. They can be very overwhelming or very much a mysterious box. And one of the things we want to do today is demystify the world of recruitment. Thank you for doing that straight up, Sam, which is really highlighting that there are different models, and we'll touch on that later in the session as well, in terms of how recruitment agencies structure their fees and their service offering to you. So please, I think key takeaway from the get-go from this slide is to not assume that all recruitment agencies cost the same, and to really do that work and find out what sort of fee model you're up for. So I'll kick us off, and then I'll hand over to Sam. Sam and I will take turns going through some slides and having a bit of a conversation. First up, we want to just share with you signs you need extra support. It's really hard when we're in the thick of it, as I say, that you recognize, okay, things are not working. I need some extra help. Where do I turn to for that help? Especially when with small businesses that we work closely with, you're in the middle of everything coming at you and you haven't had a moment to stop. And I feel this myself, and with family members of mine running small businesses, we don't take a moment to stop and actually work out, how can I help myself? So I really want you to lean into this slide and think about, when are the triggers? What triggers do I put in place for me to think about, okay, some things are not working. I need to put my hand up and ask for some extra support from the experts. Couple of signs to keep in mind. Consistent hiring delays or missed deadlines, missed timelines. And that happens for various reasons. We're busy with running the business. We're busy with various urgent priorities. People I need to come into the interview process are not available, or I keep putting this off because it's a bit of a mystery box, as I mentioned. We're overwhelmed as internal teams. We've had record high job applications, and Sam and I were reflecting when we were preparing the slides. We've called this presentation Hiring in a Tough Market. And ironically, we have in various markets, not just Australia, this is from a New Zealand and Canada lens as well. We have we're in a tough economy right now. And there's a lot of people actually applying for jobs rather than the other way around, where we were a couple of years ago, where there aren't any applicants for some positions. We're in a situation where we actually have a lot of people applying for a lot of jobs. That makes life difficult for hiring managers and for business owners, because you're having to go through a lot of applications, shortlist and understand how do you make time to review sometimes hundreds of applicants, sometimes more. We'll touch on this a bit more shortly as well. We have high turnover or poor hires. There's something not quite right in the recruitment process. We're either having people leave as soon as they join us and as soon as they're recruited, or we have people leaving us a little bit after that as well. And we have that turnover that we're trying to proactively think about, how am I hiring the right person? Who can I talk to actually understand, am I getting something wrong at what we call the top of funnel, the very early days of recruiting? Is my job ad up to scratch? Is my position description the right one? Is my business environment the right one? As a result of this overwhelm, candidates and hiring managers' experience is suffering. We're actually hearing a lot of feedback from candidates who are applying but not hearing back, and from hiring managers who are being asked to sit on various interview panels with candidates that shouldn't be shortlisted and shouldn't have made it to that interview. So there are some things in the process that are starting to suffer some points of tension because of how everybody, how busy everyone and how overwhelmed everyone is. And finally, given everything we've talked about, you're just not finding that right person, that unicorn, as easily as you thought you would. Sometimes we sit in a company in our roles and think, and I've done this so many times, surely everybody would love to work here. Surely everybody knows the great work we're doing. Why am I not getting the right person? Why am I getting the different types of applicants that aren't quite hitting the mark for me? How can I cut through that? Sam, I'd love to hand over to you for when to engage a recruitment partner.
Thanks, Nicole. Yeah, some great points there. And I think, as you mentioned, some of the stats coming through, that the number of job applications and the number of candidates applying per job is the highest it's ever been on record. And yeah, it's really time consuming. So I think one of the most common questions I get from small business owners is, when should we actually get outside recruitment help? Like, when's the right time to hit the trigger? And there isn't a one size fits all answer, but I have seen some consistent patterns that can really help guide the decision. So there's three key themes that I'm going to run through. So the first one being when you are hiring for a really specialized or hard to fill role. So if you're hiring for a role that requires a niche skill, or it's a difficult role to fill, it's often a sign that you might need some external help. 72% of small business owners report that finding qualified candidates is one of their top challenges. So I think everyone on this call, I'm sure they've sat there at one stage and had a role where this is difficult. This is completely different to a role they've done before. It may be a new role. So I think it happens more often than not that the right candidates aren't actively job seeking. They might be passively open, but they're not necessarily scrolling through job boards and actually applying for jobs. And the skill sets are often more rare or in high demand. So it does mean that competition for those candidates is also more fair. So coupling those together, it can be really challenging. So I think looking into how a recruitment partner can help in these situations is they often have access to broader talent pools. So more of the passive candidates, we can reach out to them, headhunt these hidden gems who aren't necessarily responding to your ads, and really leverage specific sourcing strategies to target hard to reach candidates and bring them into your hiring process. So, I speak to a lot of clients who say, I know how to place an ad on a job board. I know how to screen the resumes, but if the right candidates aren't even making it into your inbox in the first place, then that's where a recruitment partner can jump in, widen the net, and really increase your chance of finding the perfect match. Another one to think about would be, when you're scaling your business, a lot of small businesses, you tend to start going through bigger periods of growth. And when you're scaling up or opening a new location or really going through a rapid growth phase, a new region, recruitment can really quickly become overwhelming. And it might, your process itself, when you're running it, it might not be built for speed or volume. You might lack insight into the talent market that you're growing into. And it means you could be missing out on really strong candidates in those local talent pools, or underestimating the level of competition. Running an ad from one state to a different state with exactly the same role and exactly the same salary, you're going to have different results because there are lots of different implications to different areas. So definitely something that a recruitment partner can move fast with you, but really keep maintaining that high standard of quality. So not just speeding up the process, but also ensuring that you don't hire the wrong person, which can lead to a poor fit, as you mentioned before. A total cost of a bad hire can actually be up to 5 times the annual salary of that person. So making those quick, uninformed hiring decisions can really have an impact on your business. So something definitely to keep in mind. And then I think finally, this is especially important for those of you who are on this call who don't have an internal recruiter or don't have a HR team. If recruitment is just one more item that's on your very overloaded to-do list, which I'm sure a lot of people can relate to, it's likely that you're not actually dedicating the proper time and attention that the recruitment process needs. It can take anywhere from 4 to 6 hours just to screen a standard role, and that's can go sky high when you're doing maybe a more entry level role or a role that has a high volume of applications. So hiring, it's not just about posting ads and hoping for applications. It's quite time intensive and a process that requires attention to detail, the strategy behind it, and strong communication both ways. So yeah, if you're wearing multiple hats and you're dealing with operations and sales and customer service, then recruitment can often fall to the bottom of your priority list. So that's where a recruitment partner can help. They can be a flexible extension of your team. They can manage the process for you, write the job ads, screen the candidates, communicate with the applicants, and really just allow you to focus your time on your role, whether that's running the business or, as we've mentioned, there's other areas that you might be focusing on, and really just saving you that time and getting you through to a qualified list so that you can conduct your interviews and assess them more for their personality and cultural fit for your business. So essentially, it's like having a part-time recruiter on your team, but without having to add them to your payroll. So yeah, I think in summary, there's the 3 key areas there, I would say, that you should really consider when is the right time. And it doesn't have to be a long-term commitment. It doesn't have to be something you use every time, but using a recruitment partner for one key hire can just free up that time and headspace and lead to a better outcome.
Sam, you reminded me of my when I was earlier on in my career, and a bit of advice I got was just make sure you're not screening applicants or trying to recruit your mini-me. And I'm not going to admit to it, but maybe I did make those mistakes once or twice. And I found having a recruitment partner and giving them that permission, or just saying, look, please challenge my biases and please tell me if I'm missing something in an applicant or a candidate's skill set that I haven't, my mind didn't screen for that, because we all have biases. And giving my partner a permission or inviting them to do that and challenging me, I've personally found that very helpful over the years. So yeah, thanks for reminding me of that story. I've definitely made 1 or 2 or 3 mistakes in my time. That's for sure. Speaking of mistakes, it's also important to assess and select the right recruitment partner. So hopefully we're about to share some tips to help you find the right one that works for you and for your industry, for your company, and so on. Three key takeaways. What makes a great recruitment partner for you? Firstly, transparency and clarity with pricing. Do they have a clear fee structure? Are there any hidden fees? being I think there's a really big thing that I'm very passionate about, which is that fine line between being nice versus asking direct questions. Like, just ask. It's okay to just say, hey, what are the fees? Walk me through them, or I don't understand them, or why is this structured this way? Help me understand why. That's important, so that there aren't any surprises at the end. I find that that's a big lesson that I can share from my past mistakes as well. Industry understanding. Have they hired for a similar role, industry or business size? Do you, and I think in this point, and we'll touch on later as well in terms of how you can be a great partner, have you shared enough about your company, what's different, your value proposition, and then asked in return, how does this sound to you? Have you done something similar with another industry or a business that's similar to my business? Or am I missing something? I love the question around, like, am I missing something when I describe what this role to you, or I describe the industry our company operates in, from what you've seen as a recruitment partner in the market? What have I missed? Or what am I not asking you? I think one of my favorite questions is, what have I not asked you? So that you can be an informed partner as well. And lastly, process compatibility and communication. Do they have a process that aligns with your brand? Down to this is how I want candidates to be communicated with. Do you email a candidate, or do you pick up the phone? What process do you have in place from a values point of view around managing competing priorities with multiple candidates versus the hiring manager's priorities or the company's priorities as well? So there's some really important questions to ask to select the right recruitment partner. But I think the takeaway from here is, don't hesitate to ask those questions. And a good recruitment partner, in my experience, Sam, is one that would openly answer those and invite you to ask more, rather than shut them down. I've definitely worked with some great partners who have welcomed the curiosity. And as long as I've asked it from a curious place rather than an annoying place, not that I would, that's always been an important part of the partnership.
Yeah, definitely. And there's so many options out there and so many different types of partners you can work with. So I think having this, some key things to think about when you're making that decision can be really helpful to make sure, you are partnering with the right person.
Yeah, definitely.
Perfect. Well, I think it leads into this question, what does working with a recruitment agency typically look like? So if you're a small business owner, a manager, you may have never worked with a recruitment agency before. And many businesses we speak to often take that DIY approach to recruitment, and that's completely normal. You might have relied on word of mouth, local job boards, community Facebook groups, the classic newspaper ad. And these methods can work really well for roles within your immediate network, or if you hire infrequently, or if you don't have much urgency. So they can definitely be good sources of finding applications, but the dynamics can really change when we've talked about you're hiring for a specialist role, or you're pressed for time, or you just simply can't afford to make the wrong hire. And that's when a recruitment agency or a recruitment partner becomes invaluable, not just in terms of who you hire, but also in the time and often the mental load that you save. But I think some people on this call might be wondering, what does it actually look like to work with a recruitment agency? And more importantly, what does it cost? So we'll start off with going through a bit about the process and what agencies do. So when you engage with a recruitment agency or a recruitment partner, the process typically starts with a detailed briefing where we get to know your business and the role and about the type of person you're seeking. And we'll also learn a bit more about the culture and the team dynamics. We want to ensure that we're presenting people that can also fit into your business culturally. And then once everyone's aligned, that's where we move into the sourcing of applications. And again, as I mentioned earlier, it isn't just about posting an ad on a job board. There's a lot more to it. And to have that proactive approach, that's how you're going to get a wider pool of candidates and ultimately find the best fit, and hopefully one or two unicorns in there as well. So the strategic advertising, really choosing the right platforms. If you're in a trades role or a healthcare role, the candidates that are applying are looking for different things. They're looking in different places and they're motivated by different benefits. So I think choosing the right platforms to attract the role into where people in your industry are going to be looking. And then agencies can tap into their networks. So passive candidates who aren't actively job seeking, we mentioned it earlier in the call. Not everyone's sat and going through job boards. They might just be, contemplating what the next step is, but they've not pulled that trigger to go and start applying. They're the candidates that you really want to get in front of and get your role in front of them before they find something else that may be on one of the job boards. And then you also have the harder to fill roles we talked about. They can really take some really detailed, proactive headhunting to target the right candidates, especially if they're not currently looking for a job. So once the sourcing has been completing, the recruitment partner, the recruitment agency would likely do the screening process. So this allows you to rule out all the bad candidates that have the incorrect experience, or might not have the location that you're looking for. They might live too far away. There's many different reasons why candidates might not meet your initial screening criteria. So once we've done the screening, you'll receive a shortlist of candidates so who've been thoroughly vetted, both their skills. And then from there, you can run interviews, or if you prefer, some agencies and partners can run interviews for you too. So looking at some stats around candidates, 75% of job seekers are actually considered passive, meaning they're open to looking for opportunities, but not actively looking. So if you're just placing a job on a job board, then you're missing out on 75% of candidates. So when you think about the total number of applications you want to receive, that can be a really large chunk of candidates that you're not getting access to. So I think moving on to the average time to hire. So this can range anywhere from 30 days to 40 days as a national average. A good agency should be able to move quickly, but the quality really shouldn't be sacrificed for speed. For example, at Recruit Shop, our current average time to hire is 30 days from receiving a job brief to an offer being made. But sometimes it can be quicker and sometimes it can be a lot longer. It really depends on the role and the responsiveness. And this is key from both sides. So from the agency and from the person we're working with, the hiring manager or the business owner, that responsiveness from both sides can really make an impact. So DIY recruiting, it can often take weeks just to get enough decent applications to start shortlisting, let alone scheduling of the interviews and all of the things that come with the recruitment process. So a recruitment partner and a recruitment agency can really streamline the process for you and make it much quicker and more efficient. And then finally, I think the one question that might be on a few people's minds are the fee models and what you might have to pay. And for a lot of small business owners we speak to, we can't typically afford a recruitment agency. We don't have the budget. So cost is very important consideration for small businesses, and there's several fee models that usually are used. So I'll do a brief highlight, and if anybody would like some more information, I'm more than happy to share that after our call finishes. But contingency is one model, so you'll only pay the agency if they fill the role. The model is great if you want to keep your options open, but it can sometimes lead to rushed decisions or placements that might not be the best fit. And you'll also need to pay anywhere from 15% to 30% of the candidate's salary. So as I mentioned, it can be quite costly for many small business owners. There is another model as well called a retained model, which is typically used for more executive or highly specialized roles where you might pay a portion up front to secure the agency's focus on your role. And this model would have a much higher percentage, and the model being more expensive, but offers a highly thorough process. And then you have the fixed fee model, which is where we at Recruit Shop sit. So instead of charging a percentage of the candidate's salary, we offer a transparent flat rate fee, which is really more tailored to small businesses that make it more affordable compared to traditional agencies, but also for people that just, don't have the time to do it themselves. So I think, to summarize, if you avoided agencies due to concerns about high costs or bad previous experiences, it's definitely understandable. I'm sure everyone can think of a time where they've maybe worked with someone that it wasn't exactly what they were hoping for, but I just wanted to run through this to show not all agencies work the same. The key is ultimately to find a recruitment partner who understands the unique needs of a small business, offers transparent pricing no matter which model they work on, and adds some real value to your hiring process. So whether that is sourcing more applications or taking that time-consuming process off your hands and saving you the time and effort, that's what you need to work out. What is the value they can add to you?
Awesome. Sam, do you have any views around that good old debate between wait till the job ad is closed, then screen everybody, or screen as you go and interview as you go? We've just always gone back and forth with this debate in multiple organizations I've worked in. Given where the recruitment market was at a few years ago, it was a case of screen and interview as soon as you can, because people had lots of other options on the table. You don't want to miss out on a candidate, leaving them in the pipeline for a few weeks. Is that still kind of the advice you would give?
Yeah, no, good question. I still wholeheartedly agree with that. I think, when a candidate applies to a role, you also have to think they're not just applying for your role. So I think that's what a lot of people forget. They think, oh, I've just received this application, but in their minds, this candidate might have applied for 10 or 15 other roles. If somebody has a quicker process than you and has completed an interview and a second interview in 2 weeks' time, that candidate could be hired before you've even contacted them. So we like to say every 3 to 4 days you should be checking in, reviewing your applications, contacting candidates you're interested in, and even if the process is slightly delayed, keeping them warm through that process so they know that they are being considered. Candidates lose interest very quickly. Lots of new shiny jobs pop up every day, and there's lots of businesses recruiting and lots of competition. So I think, being quick and the communication being either transparent around, yes, we'll be back in touch in 2 weeks to conduct interviews, or we're holding interviews next week, you're on the shortlist. They're the types of things that we would recommend to keep those candidates engaged. But ultimately, I have lots of clients that I work with. I have one client who, the day that I send their candidates through to them, he picks up the phone, he organizes an interview, he gets them in the next day, and he usually hires within 7 days. And
Nice.
that's
Wow.
unheard of. Whereas we have some clients who, might wait 2 or 3 weeks, and then by the time they contact those candidates, half of them have already found other roles or have, progressed to other opportunities. So definitely my advice would be to communicate with the candidates as soon as you can.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Yeah, time kills offers and time kills deals, right?
Yes.
How to be a great partner. That's also with you, Sam. I'd love to hear from you. How can hiring managers and businesses kind of bring their best, represent their company best so they can get the most out of a recruitment partnership? I'm really excited about this one.
Yeah. And I think it's something that I've learned over the years that I've been supporting small businesses. It isn't just about picking the right agency, but how you work with them as well. So the best recruiter can only do so much without the right partnership on the client side. So I think it's good to talk about the common pitfalls that you should avoid and how you, as the hiring manager or the business owner, can really set your business up for success. So I think you mentioned this earlier in the call, Nicole, but be clear about what you're hiring for. One of the most common pitfalls is a lack of role clarity. And if you're not 100% on what the role involves and what kind of person you need and what success might look like in that role, then your partner or your recruiter will be left guessing, and then ultimately so will the candidates. So I think before the search even begins, just take a moment to really define what are the key responsibilities of this role. What are the must have, the non negotiable skills and experience? And what is the work style? What's the team dynamic and what's the cultural fit? And then a great one to think about is, what does a win look like within 3 to 6 months into the job? So it doesn't have to be perfect, but the more your partner or agency knows, the better job they can do to support you. We always conduct 15-minute to 20-minute consultations with our clients to really dig deeper into what they're looking for. And I know with my HR clients, they often provide us with a great job description that you guys have written for them. And we work together in collaboration to use a job description and more of a personal touch to really pull together all the information that you're looking for and put that into, some attractive marketing that are going to find those candidates and get their eyes going, I want to apply for this one. So clarity is definitely, especially if it's a new role within the business, that's something that's really key before you get started. I think another one would be around internal alignment. So making sure everyone within your business is aligned with who you're looking for. So behind the scenes, different stakeholders can often want different things, and it can lead to confusion and mixed messages and candidates being ruled out for inconsistent reasons. So I think before you engage any type of recruitment partner, make sure everyone is on the same page, agree on those non-negotiables, and then discuss the definition of a strong candidate so that the recruiter isn't stuck in the middle of all the hiring partners. And then once your partner or your agency start to send candidates through, keep that criteria consistent, because if priorities do change, which things can do, you just need to be aware of that and let the partner know quickly so they can pivot without wasting your time or the candidate's time. And then this one might seem obvious, but I do think it's really a really important one. And communication loops can make or break a recruitment campaign. So good communication is, providing quick responses to questions or candidate submissions, sharing clear and constructive feedback, even, if it's not quite right, because, and that works both ways from both sides, and also being available when priorities shift or new information comes to light. So when feedback takes a week or decisions stall, we talked about candidates drop out. And especially in today's market, it's not about rushing, but it's about staying responsive. And it's one of the simplest ways to stay competitive in this market. So it's a partnership at the end of the day as well. It's a two-way partnership. You as outsourcing recruitment doesn't mean that you should check out of the process. So some hiring managers might think, well, I'm paying someone now, they'll sort it all out. But the truth is the best results happen when you work together and you stay engaged. So it means taking part in those kickoff calls, reviewing the shortlists and the debriefs, making those timely decisions when strong candidates are presented, and then treating your recruiter or your partner as a strategic partner, not just someone who's providing CVs. And the recruiter is ultimately representing your business in the market. So the way we communicate, the speed of your feedback, and how your interviews are run, it all shapes the candidate experience and reflects on your brand as well. So yeah, I think the main things, if you want to avoid that frustration, get the most from your recruitment partner, start with clarity, align internally, be responsive and communicative, and be involved, because great recruitment is a team effort. And when both sides bring their A game, it can really alleviate that stress, and it can be a smooth and rewarding process, and it can really add value to your business.
Awesome. Thank you for that. I think another thing that comes to my mind as I'm listening, and that was really useful, is candidates will give feedback to recruitment partners, how the interview went, what sort of vibe, if that aligned with how you described the company. Was there anything unprofessional or anything they felt funny about, or even, and of course, positive feedback. But every now and then, I think you're in that really awesome position, Sam, and recruitment agencies are, where you're getting that constructive feedback. And as a partner, I encourage companies and business owners and managers to ask for that and not be afraid to hear it, and don't dismiss it too quickly. Or, we didn't hire them, therefore they had bad things to say about us. That may be the case. But also there's oftentimes some gold gems in there that you want to hear about your business, and celebrate the wins, celebrate the positives, and of course do something about the constructive. I think that's been a big one along the journey for me as well.
Definitely.
So we have a few minutes before we open Q&A, and I wanted to put in a bonus slide. Sam, I gave you a heads up that I don't want us to finish this webinar without talking about our friend AI, artificial intelligence. Love to hear from you. What are the trends in the recruitment world around, the use of AI from both the candidate's lens and the hiring lens as well?
Yeah, definitely. So I think as many small business owners or hiring managers, or you might be concerned about the increasing use of AI in recruitment. And I think it can feel overwhelming. And it's a tool that, when used correctly, can really streamline your hiring process and improve decision making. But hopefully share a couple of tips and tricks that might help you along the process. So it's very now common for candidates are going to be using AI to polish their resumes, making them appear flawless, but it's essential to really dig deeper and asking more behavioral questions like, tell me about a time when, to uncover real experience and problem solving abilities is going to help to figure out those little niggles there when you're not too sure. I think cross-checking resumes with a LinkedIn profiles or a portfolio for consistency. AI can't replicate real life stories. So having those conversations and having, those behavioral conversations are really going to help with that. I think as well in interviews, candidates can rehearse responses with AI, can make them sound more polished. I think focusing on open-ended questions. What was a challenging project you worked on, to really understand their true experience, and follow up with a spontaneous question, see how they respond under pressure. Everyone can practice their standard questions, and we all know the most common questions are going to get asked in an interview, but throwing a unique one in there will really help to give you that different experience and how they respond. So I also think some of the trends that we've seen are candidates structuring their application responses, but it doesn't necessarily mean they lack authenticity. Follow up with questions like, what excites you about this role? Why do you think you'd work well within this culture? That really needs candidates to really think on their feet and shows if they've done some research into your company and why they think they're going to be a good fit, as opposed to just generic questions. Look for emotional intelligence in their responses. Again, AI can't replicate genuine passion. So if you're asking somebody to explain why they want to work in your industry, you want to see somebody's eyes light up. And I think that's something that can be really good to see, when you're having these conversations. The human touch is never going to go away. And I think AI is an amazing tool and it can make recruitment more efficient, but it can't replace human intuition. You can use AI to save time, but you still really need to rely on your own judgment to assess the cultural fit and other human qualities. And as AI continues to evolve, it's going to start changing. It's going to start executing more hiring tasks autonomously. It's going to be an invaluable support tool, but the human judgment will remain crucial. One thing that we've just recently launched, and I know we talked about this earlier, Nicole, is an AI phone screen product, and it's a completely new thing. It's gone from the days where, AI is just supporting humans with writing emails or providing you with a summary of something that you might want to read. It's really starting to move to that next era of AI. So our AI phone screen technology, it really streamlines the initial candidate screening process, and it allows you to organize multiple phone screens with candidates in one click. It allows the candidates to book in a call whenever they want to and avoids that back and forth and all the time consuming parts of phone screens and getting availability for your hiring manager or the candidates and making that time work. So yeah, it just really gives you more time to focus on what really matters and find the right person for your team. So I think there's some ones that I can think of off the top of my head and a couple of things that we've been doing here. So hopefully that's given some people some ideas. But yeah, it's an exciting
Awesome.
time.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. That's good to hear. I think the takeaway for me is that similar to what we do, which is introduce an AI for the sake of efficiency in your workflow rather than replacing the human. That's always going to be there, and it must continue to be there in our lines of work, right? We're people dealing with people and connecting people to people. So that's quite important. But thank you for sharing. It's good to know that there's so much technology advancing out there, and that, yeah, from a recruitment point of view, there's some tips that are quite useful for hiring managers to be aware of when candidates are using AI. So with that said, I'd love to open it for questions. Please drop your question in the Q&A chat functionality, and we'll get right into answering them. I do have an AI related one, Sam, if you're ready.
Yeah, sure. Let's go for it.
This one's a good one. From a recruitment partner perspective, is it off-putting when candidates' cover letter and CV are like too AI generated?
That's a great question.
Mm.
I would say that as recruiters, we are looking for authenticity and clarity and relevance, but AI generated documents aren't inherently bad. I think, in fact, most candidates use AI tools to improve more their grammar and structure and their experience more professionally, or tailor their documents to the role. And that's a smart use of using those tools. I think the times I would say where it's off-putting would be if the documents are really overly generic or templated and they don't have any personality or relevance to the role. There's a mismatch between the sophistication and how the candidate presents in a conversation and how they present on paper. And I think, as I mentioned before, if it's not really tailored to the role or the company, and it's just a copy and paste, and you can tell they've not really put any effort into relating it to the role. So I think a great cover letter or CV should still reflect the candidate's real experience, their voice, and their enthusiasm. And if you can't see the person behind it, I think that's when it becomes really clear. So I think yeah, the use of AI is great to help, but I think, yeah, it shouldn't replace what the candidates would do in their own time. So more of a polished tool, not a write it all for you tool.
Awesome. Thank you. Love that. Another question is around exclusivity. So if you have, we've seen some recruitment agencies use or say that you'll have to engage with us exclusively. How does that sort of work in terms of the engagement models with recruitment partners?
Yeah, and the great question, and this one comes up often when businesses are considering different recruiters and different strategies. So, an exclusive agency agreement means that you would engage just one recruitment partner to work on your role and agree not to give the same vacancy to multiple recruiters at once. So, it's more similar. We talked about the contingent model where several agencies might compete to fill the same role. An exclusive agency agreement is more of a committed partnership-based approach. So, there definitely are some upsides of going exclusive. So, that recruiter is going to have deeper commitment and prioritization of your role and consistency in the candidate messaging. But there's some downsides, I'm sure, as well. The main hesitation businesses have is putting all the eggs in one basket if it doesn't work out. So you really need to make sure, if you are doing an exclusive agreement, that you really choose an agency that you trust. You've got clear timelines and expectations, and make an arrangement on that time limited. So you might say, we'll be exclusive with an agency for the first 2 to 3 weeks and then review, rather than signing into a longer term commitment. So again, we're very different to a traditional agency. That's very different to how we work. And for smaller businesses, exclusively can often, you know, confuse them and not really know all the different steps. So it's a great question. But I think the main takeaway I would say is, if you are looking at an exclusive arrangement, make sure it's someone that you really do trust.
Nice. We found that if you have more than one agency working on a role, that it would there's that confusion in the market in terms of, from a candidate perspective, where is my application? You might see it advertised in two different places, or a candidate might get contacted by two different agencies, and how does that work in terms of a fee model and so on? So it could cause some confusion as well. Thanks, Sam. That's a great way of positioning it too. Do recruiters actually look at cover letters first, or the CV first? Are cover letters a must? And shouldn't everything be on the CV? That's a really good one. I want to know the answer myself.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think in most cases, well, in our process, we always look at the CV first. it doesn't mean the cover letter isn't important, but I think when you're dealing with high volumes, the CV is the document you want to open first because it'll give you the key facts up front, their career history, their skills, their qualification experience. And then if the CV looks promising, a good cover letter can really make the difference. I think everything can be in the CV, but the cover letter is where I find the candidates really shine in bringing that experience to your role and your business. So once we've assessed they've got the right skills and experience, a cover letter can help. If they've changed careers or industries and explaining why, if there's a career gap or relocation, it can really add some helpful context. And then when the job calls for strong written communication, the cover letter can almost become a sample of how their communication style or their written communication works. So again, the resume can be the same for any job you apply for. The cover letter is where a thoughtful cover letter can really tip the scale between,
Yeah.
if there's multiple candidates with very similar experience, that's what we find. So I wouldn't say cover letter is essential, for junior roles or an application process where it doesn't request one, but I do think for professional or leadership roles or client facing roles, a tailored cover letter can show the efforts or motivation or alignment with the business. Within our application process, every candidate that we receive, they upload their resume and we actually tailor 5 or 6 questions to the client's individual role that they have to type into. So they can't just upload another resume. It has to be written directly into our system. And that really gives a clear indication of the written communication style, their motivations for applying for the role, and it's fully tailored to each client. So you can really dig deeper into areas that you want to learn a bit more about before you decide whether you want to, progress them through to the next stage.
Nice. There's a similar question around should cover letters talk more about ourselves, our experience, or more technical skills, why we are good fit for the role? It's a little bit of everything, but to Sam's point, it's about addressing the criteria that's in the job ad directly as to what skills you bring, what skills a candidate would be bringing that are related to to the criteria that you've outlined in your job ad. That's quite important, rather than a generic rather than the whole thing being generic overview of themselves or their experience. So there's really important link there back to the skills.
Yeah, I agree. I think it really should be a blend of both, a strong focus on why the candidate's the right person for the role in this company and connecting the dots between who they are and what they've done and what makes them a great fit. So I think highlighting some key experiences and then finishing off with a bit more about those technical skills, but it's not a repeat of a CV. It should really be a chance to say, this is why I'm excited by this opportunity, and here's how I'm going to bring value to your team.
Awesome. I'm going to squeeze in one last question and then wrap us up. It is back to AI, and it's that kind of really good question around: is it important to use AI when we have large volumes, when we for reviewing applications and pre-screening, say 100 applicants? Does it add value when it's just 5 applicants in the mix, for example?
Yeah.
Additionally, it's a big question, so we might have to run an AI webinar another day. What are the implications of the Workday case action, and should businesses wait for the result? I think just touching that very briefly, and I'll hand over to you, Sam, as well. It is about helping you with large volumes, the way I see it, but also it's about efficiency without taking away the human factor and element, which is why it's important. When we reference things like the Workday case, that you have demonstrated where your processes have been, or your AI solutions have been designed to remove the bias from them, and where you've still got a human in the loop, if you like, continuing to take those into, look at those applications that have been shortlisted. Sam, did you have anything to add as well?
Yeah, I can touch a bit more on the volume piece as well and if it's valuable, but I think the short answer is it really depends on the volume and the quality of applications as well, not just the number. The quality piece will be a big part. So
Yeah.
I think when we use it kind of further down the process at this stage, but I think as things grow, it's going to be becoming more and more earlier on into the process. And I think it can be hugely beneficial. And I think that high volume piece, if you've got 100 applications, it's going to help you quickly identify some keywords or qualifications. It can sort applications by relevance or alignment and just assist in that initial screening step. So I think, as I mentioned, just recently, we have these questions that we can add in. So that can be an instant filtering piece. So do you have the right driver's license, or do you have the required qualification for my role? Those pieces of information and having some really clear, hard criteria can also help to bring down that volume and just get those candidates in front of you that you want to have conversations with, rather than spending hours and hours going through each individual candidate. So I think, if you've got 5 strong applications, AI is not going to add as much value because it's not going to take you as long. And at that stage, you probably just want the human touch and you can read between the lines and assess the softer skills. But I think if you had 5 poor quality applications, AI can still help you to figure out, what could I do with this role and why am I not quite getting the right people?
Awesome. Thanks so much, Sam. That's all we have time for in terms of questions. I just want to wrap us up by saying thank you so much, everybody, for joining. Really appreciate you making the time for this evening and this morning. For those of you who are excited to see the recording and the slides, they'll be made available within the next 48 hours. Both recording and slides, because I know we get asked about both. And I just wanted to remind everybody, for MyHR clients, there is an offer from Sam. Thank you, Sam, for Recruit Shop, $250 discount for reaching out to Sam. And for everybody on the call, you'll be reminded or invited to book a 15-minute chat about anything and everything with me as part of our MyHR offer, to thank you for attending this webinar. So we've got our contact details up there, Samantha at recruitshop, .com. Thank you, Sam, once again. And there's mine, Nicole at myhr.works. Lastly, I want to say a big thank you to our marketing team who makes these webinars happen, and our legend behind the scenes, Ruby, that helps us to bring these to you all. Sam, did you want to say anything before I wrap us up?
Thank you very much for having me today. I hope there's some key takeaways and useful information. And it sounds like there's a lot of questions around AI and recruitment. So I feel that could be a good another topic to do down the track. And if anyone does have any questions, feel free to reach out to me directly. And thank you so much for your time and for having me on today.
Awesome. I'm going to hold you to that follow-up webinar on all things AI. Thank you for joining us. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your evening and day.